So how can you score high marks in the education and teaching section of the ophthalmology portfolio? This is what we'll talk about today. My name is Saad. I'm an ophthalmology trainee here in the UK. I've gone through this entire process myself, and so today I'm trying to make your life a bit easier by taking you through the education and teaching section of the ophthalmology portfolio. So I'll talk about what you need to do in each section of this particular section of the portfolio and what you can do to make your life a bit easier and score the highest mark that you need to get into ophthalmology. I will also be using excerpts from my own portfolio, and I'll be showing you what sort of evidences I used myself, so that gives you an idea of what has been used in the past. So the education and teaching section gives you a total of 5 marks towards your final mark from the portfolio. It is made up of a few sections, and I will take you through each section at a time. So the sections are: number 1, when you carry out multiple teaching sessions; number 2, if you have done any higher teaching qualifications; and number 3, if you have contributed to a postgraduate academic book, whether that was writing the whole book or if you wrote a particular chapter only. And finally, we'll talk about some miscellaneous score points that you get if you have those evidence. And if you stick around till the end, I will also mention some important points that you need to know about this section, and which will make your life easier and help you get the most marks that you can out of this section. So let's start by talking about the first section within this education and teaching subsection. We have the carrying out teaching session. Now this gives you a total of 1 point, and let's talk about how you can get that 1 point. What you need to do to get this 1 point is you need to contribute to at least 3 teaching sessions on different subject areas over a period of at least 3 months, with formal feedback included in your evidence. Whoa, that's a lot of words. Let's try and break down this so that you can understand what this really means for you. So number 1, you cannot teach the same subject over 3 sessions, let's say over 3 months, and you'll get the point. You have to do different subject over the course of each teaching session. So let's say the first teaching session was about endophthalmitis, the second session was about uveitis, and the third was about corneal abrasion. So just an example, you can do this with any other subject that you're teaching at that time. It doesn't have to be ophthalmology related. Next, an important thing you might have noticed is you cannot teach these 3 sessions over a short period of time, like let's say a month or 2 months. You have to spread out your teaching sessions over the course of 3 months or more. So one way to do that would be you do 1 teaching session every month for 3 months, and this is how you spread your 3 teaching sessions across 3 months. You could do it over a course of 6 months if you like. You could do it over a course of 1 year. You don't really need to be just sharp 3 months, but you cannot have these teaching sessions over a course of less than 3 months. And the final bit of the initial sentence I told you was that formal feedback needs to be uploaded for this. So what does that mean? You know, the teaching sessions that you carry out, you need feedback from your audience, and that is an important evidence that you need to attach with your evidence. There are various ways you can do that. So one way would be to create out a nice Google Doc form, and you can send it out to your participants, and you can then collate this feedback into one form ultimately and use it as evidence. Another way would be to use this sort of form by GRCP, where you can hand out these paper feedbacks to your audiences at the time, and once you collect that feedback form, you can collate it into one full report, get it signed by your supervisor, and there you have your formal feedback as well. So there's various ways of doing this formal feedback, but it's just important you remember that this is something you need to give. Next, we come to the higher teaching qualifications in medical education. This gives you a total of 2 points. Now, this can be, for example, a diploma, master's, or even a postgraduate certificate in medical education. If you've done this yourself and you have evidence for that, you can get these 2 points. Now, I personally did the postgraduate certificate in health professions education, and I provided this as my evidence in my own portfolio. This was a 1-year long course, and I did it fully online while doing a full-time job as well, so that I could balance both things at the same time. There are such courses still available online, so there are universities which can provide you with a fully online 1-year course on postgraduate certificate in health professions education. If you have the time to attend it in person, we also have the in-person option, so that's something to consider. Next, you get points for authoring a postgraduate academic book. That might sound a bit daunting, and truly it is. It is not the most highest yield scoring criteria in this education section, but there are 2 ways you can score points in this section. One is if you have written a chapter of the book, and 2, if you've written the whole book. Now, what sort of books are we referring to here? So these are not just any books. These have to be postgraduate academic books. Now, the popular ones I can name for you, for example, which are examples of postgraduate academic books are like Kansky's Clinical Ophthalmology, Ryan's Retina book, Cornea by Krachmer. All these are examples of postgraduate academic books, and so that's the kind of books that you're looking to publish. Now maybe your consultant is already writing a book and you offer to write a chapter in the book. That's one way you could probably score points in this section. If you've actually written the whole book, which is kudos to you, then you can actually get 3 whole points. Another important consideration which has been mentioned in the evidence folder supplied to trainees is that when you do have points for such a book, it is important you give evidence of the publisher, and you have to mention the impact of the book. Now this impact of the book is a bit subjective, but it can be done by getting a letter from the supervisor and mentioning how the book has impacted the students or whoever has read the book. You can also use sales figures, I'm sure. And so this way you're trying to show the impact of the book and not just attach the fact that you've published a book as an evidence. Finally, we have the section where I talk about some miscellaneous points. Now these cannot be grouped into one particular section, but they all give you points towards this section. So let's start with the first one. And it's important to also know that each of these will give you half a point. So the first one is if you have helped with an educational course, but that has to be on more than one session. So you have to have helped the educational course over more than one session. So 2, 3, 4, 5. These educational courses can be anything. Let's say it's an in-person course or it's an online course, doesn't matter, but you must have had the opportunity to contribute to that course. That's what will give you the point. The second one is if you designed an e-learning tool yourself. Now these have various examples. So let's say you yourself created an online course, you created an online question bank, or anything basically that has been created online with the sole aim of education or teaching. So what I did was I created a teaching platform while I was working on my portfolio as a stroke doctor. What I did was every week we would have postgraduate teachings in our department. I recorded those teachings using the softwares that we had working on our computers at that time, and I made sure that I would keep uploading them every week to an online platform available only to NHS staff working in the department. So what this would do is this would allow anybody in the department to access that online teaching anytime, anywhere. This was the e-learning tool that I created for my department using the resources that I had. And the evidence that I supplied for this was a screenshot of the actual teaching platform, and at the same time I took a letter from my supervisor at that time stating the impact of my educational tool on the department and how it was useful and what the purpose was, and this served as good evidence. So obviously this also will give you half point. Next is if you have written an ebook yourself. Now it goes without saying that it's best you don't write this ebook on any random topic. It should ideally be professional, which means it should either be medical related or health and education related. If you have done so, if you've written an ebook and you've published it online as well, then you need to provide evidence as well. And this evidence again has to be in terms of the impact that your book has had. So a letter from the supervisor would go a long way, and most likely the evidence of downloads and how many people your book has reached as well. Then in one category bunched together is teach the teacher course or a formal role in teaching undergraduates. Now what this means is there's this popular teach the teacher course that you can do where you are taught how to be a good teacher as a medical professional. The common one is the one by Oxford. The one I did was here, so you can see the evidence over here of what I actually supplied as evidence. At the same time, if you did not do the course, you can still get the half point from here, is if you have examined undergraduate students in some capacity. So what that means is maybe you have been working as junior doctor in the NHS already, and the medical university that is linked to your hospital examines students and is looking for formal examiners who can probably help with the OSCE or examine these students. You can then put your name forward and you can use that as evidence of actual formal examination of undergraduate candidates. Now that we have covered all the sections of the education and teaching section of the portfolio, I will now speak about some important considerations which can make sure that you score the highest points and you have the appropriate evidences for each section. So all evidence must come with either the photocopy of the chapters if you've contributed that to the book, any certificates that you've done for any courses or degrees, or the supervisor, consultant or educator's letters alongside with any other evidences that you have given. And number 2, if you've done anything e-learning or online accessible learning, well that's an ebook, well that's a tool, you must have some form of evidence of its impact as well. So many of you might also be teaching fellows, or you've had a job where you were anatomy demonstrators, or you've done an educational fellow kind of a job. You should know that having just that job does not give you any points in this portfolio. But if during that post itself you did some of the things that we talked about at the top, about, you know, whether that was the courses section, whether that it was carrying out the teaching sections, those things will give you the score. But just doing the job of an educational fellow or an anatomy demonstrator does not give you the points. So in summary, that's how you can score as high as possible marks in this section. If you would like to see my latest video, you will find it right over here. If there was anything in particular that you wanted me to address, please leave that in the comment section down below. And obviously, if you like what I'm doing and you would like me to continue making more of these videos, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video.